no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
It's the size of Texas, Mr. President.
Get off my plane.
I see dead people. We're in the middle of a war. It's time to pick a side.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for episode 3, season 3, Duel of the Greats. Duel, D-U-A-L. There's two movies we're going to be talking about head to head. We're pitting them against each other. We're having a lot of fun this season. I'm Steve. You may not have realized that. You realize it's not Jeff or Nate talking, though, so it's got to be Steve. I guess it could be Brandon, but he's the producer. He's the man behind the mask, the great Oz.
The man in the chair.
Wizard. The man in the chair.
Even though we're all in chairs right now.
He is our Don Cheadle. If you listened to last week's episode, you know.
I will happily take being Don Cheadle. I'm just saying.
I mean,
I would happily take being Don. Kansas City native Don Cheadle.
We were talking about terrible accents. Yeah, he's a Kansas City, Kansas guy. I think.
He's a Kansas City guy.
We were talking about terrible accents before we were recording. His accent in the Ocean's movies is just fucking awful. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why didn't they pick a British guy?
At least
or just make him not British. The Britishness does nothing to affect his character. Like, it doesn't change his story. Anyway, I don't want to get us off on a tangent.
That feels like something where he's like, "Can I do a British accent?" And Steven Soderbergh was just like, "Sure, why not?"
You're Don Cheadle. That's fine.
Yeah. And then it was too late by the time they kept going. So
we've committed to the bit.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's what he's going. Should we say something? It's like, I don't know. We're kind of a couple takes into this. I think that's what he's gonna do.
Like, what is it, Singing in the Rain or whatever, where they're transitioning from silent movies to talkies, and the person's voice is so horrible.
Yes.
I was speaking of which,
Steve
we were talking about this earlier. Like, I watched Wolfman for the first time like 2 months ago, and I was researching it, and then there was a Wolfman meets Frankenstein movie, and in that movie,
great. I love that movie.
In that movie, Frankenstein's monster was supposed to talk, but Boris Karloff, he talked, and the entire crew could not stop laughing throughout the entire thing because his voice was so not what they expected, and they literally cut it out of the movie.
Like, I'm Boris Karloff. Hi.
It must have been like that. Like, you have no idea what I've been through as this monster. Please help me, Mr. Wolfman. But anyway, none of this has anything to do with the show this week.
Well, you know what? It's a beautiful segue. We're talking about technology changing the way movies works. And this week we are talking about two, but not just any animated films, computer animated, CGI. We have Antz and A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life was your Pixar film from 1996-ish. I don't know, somewhere around 1998.
1998.
Both from 98.
1998.
And Antz was 1998. You know what? You think I would have remembered that because the whole shtick of the show is movies that came out roughly within the same year.
And I thought we promoted that last week too.
And all 6 movies have come out within the 18-month period.
That's true.
Yeah.
The two,
Something in the water. Something
starting
about
in early
98.
97. Yep, into mid 98. We've got all these movies that are
The Clinton era. I mean, we had nothing else to do except make movies about the same things. These movies had a lot of kind of bad blood behind them, a lot of infighting between the Pixar and the Disney and the Lasseter and the Steve Jobs and the Katzenbergs. We can get into all that if we want. I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in what you two are going to tell me, because I'm judging this week, and I'm very excited about that because I don't have to do any work. I just get to sit back and guys convince me which one of these two animated masterpieces. Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll reserve that. Which one of these two films is the better film? I think our status, the way we do this, our process is to flip a coin. So I've got a little coin flip thing on Google here. Who's got, Jeff, you call it.
Tails.
It is Tails. It is Tails. Okay. So Jeff's going to go first. He's going to present A Bug's Life.
Well, he could defer.
Which... That's true. We could complicate this. Do you want to defer?
Let's defer. I want to hear what Nate has to say about Antz. Bring it on.
Of course you want to defer. All right. All right. Can I
Are
just jump
you
right?
ready?
I'm ready.
You're
Do it.
supposed to say, "May it please the court."
May it please the court.
You may proceed, counselor.
Fantastic. I am glad that Jeff deferred because this will be a pretty quick episode because I'll win pretty easily. Whereas last week I had to go second and it took a while. So Antz is a superior film. Which is not necessarily a popular opinion. I think A Bug's Life probably has existed a little bit more in the cultural zeitgeist, a little bit more. But when you really go back and watch these two movies, I was really struck by how much better Antz is. One of the main things that I think Antz really does well is the world of the ants is so much more expansive and realistic. When those ants go underground, there's like a whole city. It reminded me of Zion from the Matrix sequels. It's like this massive underground complex, and it's so. Whereas like in A Bug's Life, like you barely see them underground.
Nate's
There's
coming out swinging
nothing
on
to
here. I'm sorry, I shouldn't
there,
interrupt, but
there's
that was a
there's
swing.
there's
Yes.
nothing to it. It's such an expansive world, okay? It relates so much more. I love how in Ants the threat comes from inside. This is a scathing indictment of so much, and it's still relevant, by the way, of our society and our work culture and separating workers from the means of production and military overseers. I mean, there's so much about this movie that is still relevant to this day. When I watched A Bug's Life, I got none of that. A Bug's Life was this. First of all, A Bug's Life is a blatant Seven Samurai ripoff. Like, get an original screenplay, okay? It's just a blatant ripoff of another movie, and it's this very like it's these grasshoppers which are never antagonistic towards ants, like they're just making that up. That's not actually a thing. Okay, A Bug's Life also doesn't have ants. They have these weird four-legged creatures instead of having six legs, which we all know ants and all insects have six legs.
Hold on a
Okay,
second. Are we assuming facts and not an evidence here? I don't remember. Can we get a picture pulled up of
they
these
read the
creatures only have four legs?
in A Bug's Life, they only have the animators decided to make them look more human. They would only give them four legs. They have four appendages. They have legs, and they're obviously standing upright, and then they have two arms. Whereas in
And
ants,
they're fucking blue too. We may have to just do a ruling right now, a judgment on a motion to dismiss, and
Now
just
hold on.
kick
Now
out
hold
your.
on.
They're
Hold
not
on,
even
Nate.
bugs. They're fake bugs. All right, I'm sorry to derail. I'm sorry to do.
All right, you know what? I'll
I, everybody mute yourself. This is my opening statement.
Hold on.
Okay.
I have presented
Right.
an image in chat of said ants.
See, I don't need to see the fucking image. Okay, they're not ants. They're blue. They're blue, four-legged creatures.
Blue
Right?
quadrupeds.
Like, what kind of alien-looking thing? That's not an ant. Okay, Ants. The movie has ants in it. Okay. I also really like how a lot of the dialogue is much more witty. It's much more clever. It does play off of there's admittedly for both movies there's some problematic voice acting in this. Ants of course features the voice of Woody Allen, and the main ant is almost a little bit kind of his persona from his films. And A Bug's Life has Kevin Spacey, which I'm sure Jeff will get into. But it kind of it just sort of deals with this idea of modern work culture. The movie that I honestly was thinking about a lot when I was rewatching Ants, which I had not seen in many years, was I was actually thinking of the movie Office Space. That's really what it reminded me of. It reminded me of this awful work culture that people go through and what would happen if you tried to break free of that. I think it's just so much better. Again, ants, you know, the ants in A Bug's Life aren't real ants. Um, it's a Seven Samurai ripoff, okay? Whereas the movie Ants is a much more original screenplay, I think. This is also a very nitpicky thing because I like Dave Foley, the main voice actor for A Bug's Life. There is this laugh that Flick has that is used, the audio is used over and over and over again in A Bug's Life, and it is so annoying. And by the end of the film, I could not stand it. There was nothing in the movie Ants that annoyed me. And admittedly, these are both somewhat marketed toward children. And when I think of children's entertainment, watching as an adult, I like things that I can be entertained by. And things in A Bug's Life that annoyed me, that they're not ants. Flick has this awful laugh that he keeps going to. So, Ants is just a better movie. It just is. It's a better movie. I mean, Jeff is welcome to talk. I can tell he looks very defeated already.
Oh well,
He's
if
welcome
it
to.
just is, well, damn. How am I ever going to compete with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you done? You're
Ipso facto, I believe, is the Latin. I don't.
I'm done. I'm done. I think I've made my points.
You rest
all
your
right.
case.
Well,
All right,
A
counselor.
Bug's Life. May it please the court. A Bug's Life is a clearly superior film. Let's start with number one. Number one is the animation. First of all, DreamWorks has always trailed behind Pixar and Disney for animation, but especially Pixar. The world of Ants is incredibly gross and drab and unappealing and not fun to look at. The world of A Bug's Life is bright, it's cheery, it's fun, it's interesting to look at. The ants, I wonder if, Nate, if you've ever heard of something called an expressionistic art style, which is something that Pixar is going for here. It doesn't have to be ultra realistic and have all the ants with, oh my God, every limb is accounted for. What could we ever do? Every single person in the world who looks at the ants in A Bug's Life knows it's supposed to be an ant. They're not going to say, man, I really don't know if it's an ant because it only has 4 legs. Oh my goodness. This is silly. Bug's Life is, first of all, in direct retort to you, it is not a ripoff of Seven Samurai. It's actually based off an Aesop fable called The Ant and the Grasshopper. So you're just straight up wrong on that one. But what you didn't even mention is this original storyline for Ants. It's just a straight ripoff of Aladdin. Like the entire sequence where he meets the princess in a random thing where she's under disguise, not as the princess, and then he comes back later, finds a way to come in disguise and meet her, and they even have some of the same lines that they just pulled directly from Aladdin, like straight ripoff. So if we're gonna talk about ripoffs, we can talk about Ants on that one. And but the characters in A Bug's Life is better because the characters in A Bug's Life are focusing on positive aspects of their characters. They are A Bug's Life as a movie. Thematically, it looks at, okay, what can people do to bring out the best in each other? How can bringing out the best in myself help bring out the best in each other and the best therefore in our society, in our colony? That is a transcendent message that goes well beyond, 1998 when it was created. They the A Bug's Life is also it's a bug movie that is humanized. They take what bugs do and they take how this story of a bug and give it a little human aspect to it. Ants, on the other hand, is just a human story that they then just for some reason decided, let's make it all an animated movie about ants instead. And Woody Allen, okay, despite his character, which is we all know is debatable, him just as a filmmaker, as an actor, as a person, is annoying as hell. I cannot stand Woody Allen. He is awful. I hate him. And he's just human Woody Allen, just voicing a bug. He doesn't have a character. There is no Z character. It is Woody Allen, who just happens to be in an animated bug form. But A Bug's Life, again, bringing out the best in people. Ants, what I was struck by with Ants was how pessimistic it was, how depressing it was. Even at the end of Ants, it's not even like a fully happy ending. He's like, I'm still in therapy and I'm doing okay. And it's like, okay, I guess that's great. Good for you. But A Bug's Life, there's a truly happy ending. They figure it out. They even get along with some of the grasshoppers. Okay, now the main grasshopper is Kevin Spacey, who we want to talk about character. There's some pretty bad, character in the moral sense, not the sense of in the movie, because his character in the movie is actually pretty good, but unfortunately he sucks. And on top of all this, with A Bug's Life, there's that special, like, what makes Pixar is just that something special, a je ne sais quoi, if you will, where there is something unique and original that Pixar can bring to everything, even if they base their stories on a previously told story, right? Like in this case, they still bring a little something extra to the table, and that is very clear here. There is that extra something. There's that extra charm that Pixar movies have that Antz can't come even close to. And beyond just the making of the movie itself, going back to the animation too, I remember, like, I'm struck with how bad the animation was in Antz. The textures of the ants are just terrible. And it's not as though, like, I'm looking at it through a lens of course, it was almost 30 years ago, but so was A Bug's Life. And A Bug's Life didn't have that problem. They were clearly just better animators. And DreamWorks was younger, and they younger as a company, especially the animation side. So they get a little bit of a pass there. But and ultimately, the biggest fault against Antz that doesn't exist in A Bug's Life is Antz is commie propaganda. Damn it, sitting there talking about stealing the means of production, all this stuff. Get out of here, indoctrinating our kids. No wonder the ants are blue in A Bug's Life because they're red in Antz. That's their real color. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I was
Drop
gonna
the
say,
mic.
I'm not gonna jump right out and refute that. Like maybe that's not maybe that's not the worst thing. Here's a few things that I'm gonna call you out on. Okay. First of all, this is not a blatant Aladdin ripoff. You're taking one little like fish out of water sequence. Yeah, sure, that matches things in lots of movies. Um, in Aladdin, he doesn't accidentally join the military and take part in this like military slot. Like it's not a ripoff of Aladdin. Okay. Yes, the animation is supposed to look drab because that's what. Do you think that if
What
we
a
could get
great
a little
excuse that would be, huh?
yeah, no. Do you think that if we could get a little camera and go into an anthill, it would be all bright and cheery and purple with four-legged ants running around? I don't think that it would. I think it would seem
Do,
drab. That's the whole
do
point. That's what
you
he's trying
think
to escape.
do you think if you were an artist and you saw that it was horribly drab like that, was that exactly what you would want to portray, especially for a kids movie?
I think that what this movie is trying to portray is that this life that they're living, this constant work where no one's happy, is supposed to be drab. And also, by the way, at the end, you're saying it doesn't have a happy ending. It has a very similar ending as A Bug's Life, where we have to do what's good for the best of the colony. They literally stack each other on their shoulders. The entire colony stacks itself into a giant tower to escape up in at the top of the little anthill thing. Okay, it has the exact same message. All right. Also, on the drab animation, when they finally do go outside and he breaks free of this drab awful work-life balance, you do see these bright colors. Okay. Think of the sequence where they accidentally get stepped on by the human shoe. All right, and how it's like almost moving in slow motion. He's got to jump up and rescue the princess, and everything is so bright. And then also, how brilliant is it when it has sort of this Woody Allen persona who is obviously connected a lot with New York in his movies. And then at the very end, when it zooms all the way out, it's like this little thing of New York, and then it keeps zooming out, and they're actually in this little anthill in New York City. It's trying to take this world of the real world of human beings and put it down into sort of this ant story. And I think they do that visually very well. I think it's supposed to be drab.
It's funny because the scene that you're talking about where they almost get stepped on by the shoe is exactly what I was thinking about with the drab animation, because it's never more clear than it is in that scene, because the shoe itself is white. It's like a bright white, and so you get a very deep contrast of the ant and the texture of the ant itself when they are on the shoe, and that is where I really stuck out to me. Like, man, this is not great. It's it, and even if your intention is to make it drab color wise, the textures and the animation itself don't have to be poor along with that, and it still is for Ants.
I just think that if we are making a movie about how ants live their lives, I think it's far more likely that ants live their life. And if ants could have a consciousness, it's going to reflect the world of ants more than it's going to reflect the world of Bug's Life, where they are preparing this ritualistic
Well, now hold
meal.
on. Now hold on. Your argument was that Ants is great because it takes this human world and puts it into ant form, and now you're saying it's great because it's the most realistic ant portrayal?
Because I think it is both. There is no ant colony in the world, and I'm not an insect expert. Okay, there's no ant colony in the world where they are preparing this ritualistic meal for grasshoppers to come eat every season. Okay, doesn't make any sense. Okay, there
Grasshoppers,
is.
grasshoppers and other bugs steal ant shit all the time. Happens. Promise.
Okay, all right, fine. Maybe that
I
happens.
have
But
legit.
the ants.
It's weird that I know this because I have legit watched
Are
documentaries
you
on
an insect
ant
expert?
ant 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 civilizations are fascinating. Like I have watched documentaries on this. So like
Cut
History
that
Channel,
clip. That's gonna
like
be the tagline for this.
History Channel type documentaries. Okay. Um so that does happen.
Okay, fine. They don't prepare ritualistic meals and center their entire lives around
Well, no, but they don't have
putting together
therapists.
this
They don't have
offering.
therapists either.
But right, they don't have anything. Obviously,
I guess
fucking
okay,
ants,
so here's the
man.
question. Here's the question. Are you okay?
Real.
You're seeing Ants in a Bug's Life. All right, you're at the movie theater. Which movie do I see? Are you really like, man, which movie is gonna give me the more realistic portrayal of an ant colony? That's your decision maker
No.
right there. Is that where you're going with this?
Verisimilitude. That's what we need in our
I
insect
think
movies.
I think what I'm thinking is if I'm a kid, I don't know what I'm thinking when I'm a kid. For some reason, I did see both of these movies when I was a kid, and for whatever reason, I was weird, and I obviously I liked A Bug's Life because I liked all the Pixar stuff, and then I also kind of liked Ants. I will admit that I remembered A Bug's Life a lot more, and then again, I've fully admitted that A Bug's Life is certainly more ingrained in the public consciousness than Ants. But I do think now, again, it's in retrospect. Your opinion can change, okay? In retrospect, when I watch this movie, it really reminds me of the movie Office Space. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of this movie that was kind of ahead of its time in how it looked at and parodied and was sort of a satire of American work culture. And maybe maybe they threw in a little communist propaganda to seal the deal. Maybe that's what they had to do. All right? But that's what it is. And it feels like, again, if ants had consciousness, I feel like this is the conflict that they're going to have. That there's going to be some ant that's like, God, I just have to keep being a worker and I don't have a choice of being a worker. Like this sucks that I just have to do this day in and day out and day in and day out. And A Bug's Life isn't like that at all. It's like they put on like fucking
Because
school plays.
A Bug's Life is about, okay, this is what we have to do to survive. How do we make the best of this? Right? That they're looking at lifting each other up, lifting themselves and the colony up by being positive about where they're at. They're not wallowing in their own pity like Z
At
is.
the end of Ants, they physically, literally lift each other up, like stacking the entire colony on their shoulders. Okay, there is no greater visual metaphor for lifting each other up than literally all the characters in the movie stacking themselves on top of one another to get up out of the anthill. All right, I think that they do that. Right, I think that that message is crystal clear in Ants. And I'm not look, but I like A Bug's Life. It's a good movie. I just think that it's a weird movie. I when I look at it again, I'm not looking at ants. Okay. I might have been confused as a kid. Maybe I was. These alien four-legged creatures, I don't know what they are. And it's just, and then you have these weird grasshoppers that have like this personal vendetta against ants. I think the movie Ants is so much more realistic to the idea that the threat comes from inside. The threat comes from inside the colony.
If you
And
want to
it's
talk,
these
if you want to talk about realism, right? That is far more unrealistic because ant colonies are incredibly tight knit. They work very well together. There's no betrayals from the ant
Now,
colonies.
how can you know that?
Okay. I told you I've watched documentaries on this stuff. They take care of their old ants, right? So when an ant gets too old that it can't work anymore, they have like a garbage dump outside their ant
They
city,
stick them in the garbage.
and they send it out there because it's still work that they can
They
do
throw
that
their
helps the
old
colony.
people into the
They
garbage.
don't think about it the same way we do. It's not throwing them away. It's like, hey, you can't do the work that we need you to do, but you can still help the colony. Go do this. And they're like, I'm happy to. I'm happy to help this colony.
That sounds like
right?
communism.
As opposed to this like super malevolent general who's and his little stooge. He's got this massive grand plan to create this fake war. Like what was the? I feel like that's like is that a ripoff of The Prince or something like that? Some ancient book, but it's just like that. You want to talk about realism? That would never happen. No ant is going to try and overthrow the colony. If there was maybe
ants
two,
they're also not going to have school plays. They're not going to invite bugs
have
to
bars.
their frickin' island and have it already prepared. How the fuck did they have that prepared? All right? I work with kids. There's no way that they are pulling that off in a day, that they're putting together an entire school play that reenacts the supposed like Roman Colosseum battle that they're going to have against the grasshoppers. That's realistic? That they're putting on a play?
Ant kids are smarter than human kids. They develop at a faster rate. Ant life cycles are not nearly what human life cycles are.
Gentlemen, there's a lot of unverified ant facts flying around in this podcast, and I don't
am
know.
clearly the more knowledgeable about ants here.
We're gonna need to add community notes to this episode of.
Are there any entomologists out there that are willing to lend their expertise?
Please.
All right, I'm gonna make a preliminary ruling and say that both films are pretty communist. All right. They both have the masses gathering together to defeat their, oppressor overlords. The workers unite to overthrow them. So I don't think that is really that different in these two movies. The means that they go about it are a little different. I'll also say that I don't give a shit about verisimilitude when cartoon ants. So I don't care about any of those arguments, as entertaining as they were. I go to see movies to be entertained, ultimately, right? So which of these movies was more entertaining? Can you guys both speak to the characters specifically and what makes the characters and the ensemble casts in your movie better than the other one? Are you prepared to discuss that? Can you handle that?
Yeah.
All right. Nate, you started first, so Jeff, you go first this time.
Well, with A Bug's Life, what makes it more entertaining is what I've already talked about, the positive nature of the movie itself, right? Antz is it I was actually struck by how mean-spirited it is. There's the general, I can't remember his name. I Cutter is, I
Mandible?
can't remember if that's
is it General Mandible?
Mandible, there you go. Cutter is the Christopher Walken stooge guy. Who actually turns good. But even the princess is just so mean to Z when they're when she realizes that he's not this great warrior and all this kind of thing. And just the whole premise, the whole movie is just, it's like, oh my god, the NUI, it's so depressing, it's so sad, and there's just all of it was like, oh my god, this is pretty dark for a kid's movie. But A Bug's Life, there is this darkness there, but it was presented, everyone is more positive. Even the princess in A Bug's Life, Princess Ada, she is not sure of Flick and what he's capable of, but she's not outright like mean to him. She's not as dismissive. There isn't this sort of culture warfare that they're trying to present. And I understand, I can accept that maybe that's part of the point, but I don't think that's the point that you want to be making in this type of movie. And it drags the movie Antz down. It makes it a drag. Whereas A Bug's Life, it's way more positive. It's more about lifting each other up, and that is what makes it way more entertaining.
When I want to be entertained by a story, this is a universal theme in anything, in the books we read, the TV shows we watch, the movies we watch. What I am looking for, and I think what we are all looking for, are things that cut to the very heart of who we are as human beings. Okay? And who we are not as human beings are preparing ritualistic meals for weird grasshopper overlords. What we are as human beings, and a
Uh,
lot of us
I
are
I think
are
that's pretty
are,
human being type of thing. It literally happens
are
every Sunday at every Catholic church across the country.
okay, fair enough. I all right, I concede that point. Okay, but what we are what we are as human beings is we are many human beings, particularly in the country, in the United States of America, are dissatisfied with our jobs, we're dissatisfied with our lives, and we want to break free of that. And that is what Antz is speaking to. It is speaking to that universal theme of trying to break free from the monotony, of sensing that there is something wrong with your life and never being able to pinpoint right what it is. Honestly, I'm going to say it. Antz is very much like the movie The Matrix. It's very much like the movie The Matrix, okay? Where you have one ant, the one, who realizes that something isn't right. He feels it in himself that something isn't right and that he has to break free of the constraints of this weird, regimented society. And that is what he does. And that is, even though it's about ants, that is a very human story that cuts to the heart of who we are. And that is why Ants is more entertaining.
And Steve, I love depressing shit. I read a ton of horror. I watch a ton of horror movies. The bleaker, the better. One of my favorite Stephen King books is Revival, and if anybody has ever read that, that is one of the bleakest endings of any book I've ever read, and I love it. But like, there's a point where like it has to be handled well, and Ants is it drags it down. That movie's a drag.
Well, they both have a happy ending, though. I mean, things are undoubtedly better in Ants at the end than they were at the beginning. Would you agree?
Um,
The workers have seen
in
the production. The evil overlord has been defeated.
yeah, that's true. I can't argue that.
I mean, that's happy. That it turned out better. I mean,
Their position is better, but as we all know, like money doesn't buy happiness, right? Obviously, we're not talking about money in this scenario, but the sense that, um, you know, how about I can quote the great Rolling Stones, right? You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you might get what you need, right? Where you don't. I don't know if that applies right here. Maybe that was wrong, but my point being that like you may
we're walking it back. We're walking it back.
all right, forget what I said. Forget what I said. Edit that out, Brandon. Edit that out. But they get what they want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're automatically happy, right? Whereas in A Bug's Life, the characters themselves are happy. I mean, he even says at the end, Z's like, I'm doing okay. I'm still in therapy. I'm working through stuff, but I'm doing okay. So he's even admitting that it's not fully, all the damage has not immediately been undone.
Does that not reflect real life? Just on a micro
But is that what we want to reflect?
The judge. That's how bad your argument is, Jeff. The judge is making my point for me. Before I can even unmute my mic, the judge in this case
I'm going to hold you
is
in contempt.
making
You
my
need
point
but
for
settle
me.
down, counselor. Settle down.
but it is entertainment. You said you want to be entertained. Is entertainment
That's true.
reflecting real life to the most NUI infested umpteenth degree, or is it giving you something aspirational that you can work towards, that you can say, that is a great message. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that to inject positivity into my own life.
I agree. That's a valid point. What do we think the ultimate message is of these movies? Like, if you had to distill it down into just a soundbite there.
I mean, I think Nate, I think you nailed it right on with what Antz the message is. But I think A Bug's Life is about finding the best in yourself so that you can all find the best in each other. Sorry, Nate, I don't want to speak for you for Antz, but I was just saying I think I agree with what you've said so far with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would echo the same thing that I said. It's just, I think it's about we all desire to break free of some sort of monotony in our lives. And, you know, sometimes we choose to do that and sometimes we're forced to do that. And I think Ants is speaking to that real universal theme of something that at some point, probably in all of our lives, we all want to do in some way. And that is ultimately what the story is doing.
Made this very difficult.
Well, can I just make one more point as well? Jeff brought up several times that Ants, and I will admit this, is certainly geared probably a little bit more. I mean, they're both, I guess, generally marketed toward children, but A Bug's Life probably plays better to children than Ants does. I'll be the first to admit that. But Mr. Marketing things to children, A Bug's Life has one of the most terrifying villain death sequences of any Disney Pixar movie ever.
It was pretty horrific.
Okay, where this guy gets picked up by a frickin' bird, and that alone is like creepy enough, and then he goes and drops the bird. It's terrifying. Any child would be terrified by that. It's terrible children's entertainment. Are you for scaring children? Is that what you're arguing for here? That you want children to be terrified by these images on the screen?
Of birds, no less. You do love birds.
To a certain degree, yes. There is the late great Jim Henson. The late great Jim Henson. People asked him, like, after Dark Crystal, after Labyrinth, like, what are you doing? This is too scary for kids. And he said, no, it's not. Kids are smarter and much more intelligent than we give them credit for, and they are capable of understanding what's happening, and they're also capable. And not only are they capable of understanding why they're afraid, but it's actually good to be afraid. Sometimes it's good to know what to be afraid of. And that is a valuable thing for kids to learn. Because as you've said, that with what sort of part of what Ants is about is, the world's not always a great place. And it's okay to sort of teach these kids things. There are these sort of, horrific things that happen, but it's not like, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre over here. It was, it was a something that you wouldn't expect necessarily maybe from a kids movie, the way that death was portrayed. But it wasn't something that was just like, oh my God, I have to shield my kids' eyes there. So I think, yeah, to a certain degree, instilling a little fear in a movie where kids can learn from it and help understand what fear is and how to handle it. I do think that's something that's worth doing.
I think these movies can best be summed up by how they treat the aphids in their particular films. In A Bug's Life, they're sweet, joyful little pets. In Ants, people literally suck juice out of their ass. And
True.
That really is kind of the perfect encapsulation of the ethos that these two movies are going for, I think. And I'm very much torn. You both put forward excellent arguments. I really want to define what are we arguing about here? Which movie was better for its intended audience? If it's which movie was better for children, I think A Bug's Life certainly would be the runaway winner. However, I asked what movie was more entertaining. That's what I'm basing my judgment on. And despite one or two fun bits in A Bug's Life, particularly the two flying insects that are by the mosquito light, the bug zapper, and he's like, "Don't go into the light." I found myself just on a moment-to-moment basis not being quite as entertained during A Bug's Life as I was in Ants. I think a lot of that had to do with the dialogue. Now, Jeff, I don't know. A lot of this is going to just be personal taste in this series, but I don't know if your distaste for Woody Allen perhaps colored your opinion on this, but I think the Woody Allen performance, and I don't know if he helped write it or if he was just, involved, but just the delivery of the lines and the content of the lines just over and over again had me in stitches. And I didn't get that with A Bug's Life. In Antz, there was the Danny Glover's character where after the massacre and the fight.
That was legitimately funny. Of course.
It was,
And it's just the head. Yeah.
kid.
And it's like,
how bad
how do
am
I look? How do I look?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like, and I'm not saying that there's nothing funny
Sure, of
in
course.
Ants, but I
My fa-
mean,
My favorite in Ants is when it's at night and he's woken up his friend and he's like, "Hey, what if we switch places?" And it kind of does like the wide shot of all of them in their little boxes. He's like, "Man, you can't impersonate a soldier. You could get in big trouble for impersonating a soldier. Hell, you can get in big trouble for talking about impersonating a soldier." And he goes, "You can even get in big trouble for listening to people talking about impersonation." And it says a bunch of they all like go back to sleep. It's just great.
that was pretty
And-
good as well. Yeah, but like,
and
and to be clear, if you remember last week, I said I wanted Ants. When I watched these, I saw both these movies in the theaters when I was younger, and I liked Ants better. And I changed. My opinion has changed. You said, Nate, opinions can change over the years, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe my distaste for but like, Woody Allen is just not funny. I've never seen him do or say anything that's funny. It's not funny.
I mean, I feel like there were quite a few funny things. I don't want to get in the business of defending Woody Allen, but there were his line about their career girls, about the female worker ants, his delivery of just all kinds of those things were just excellent, I thought. The line, "Anything interesting happened today? We declared war." I mean, just pitch perfect. It was, and moment to moment, I found myself being more entertained, not only by the lines themselves, but by the plot and the where we were headed with Ants. What is going to happen here? A Bug's Life. Sometimes I just kind of was confused why characters were doing the thing. I don't really think the whole performing troupe is even really necessary to the plot. First of all, their motivations don't make any sense. There's no reason for them to stay. They do help save the one ant that's being carried away, but after that, why do they actually stay and decide to defend these people? We see a little bit that, like the
Because
ladybug.
it's the right freaking thing to do.
But yeah, maybe I'm just too old and jaded now. I just don't know that these performing folks that are living.
They get connected to the people. The one guy's like, "Oh,
They do show that. They do show.
I promised the little brownies or whatever the hell they're talking about. I promised them
the
that we'd do
ladybug, the
this,"
Mr. Ladybug or whatever.
Yeah.
It just didn't ring true to me. But ultimately, like I said, to me it was about entertainment. And in A Bug's Life, I just wasn't as entertained as Ants. So the ruling is going to be Ants trumps A Bug's Life. Now, I will absolutely agree. Ants looked terrible.
You can't appeal. Don't forget that you can appeal.
Oh,
Jeff.
did we introduce the audience to this? Okay,
we did it in the intro. I was curious because
that's true. You got to keep it in your pocket, or you want to use it?
Well, keep in mind, I wanted A Bug's Life. Jeff and I switched here, and we're kind of each defending the movie, the other movie. So I was wondering if Jeff, because I thought he had some very compelling arguments there.
He did.
I completely agree with what you're saying, Steven, what you said, Jeff. A Bug's Life looks so much better.
It was my very first note. I watched Ants first at A Bug's Life, and I'm like, wow, this movie looks way better.
Yeah.
And I will agree that Ants definitely appeals to a more broad audience because it's not quite as directed at children as A Bug's Life. But I also don't necessarily know that I would hold that against A Bug's Life. It was just a choice that was made.
Right.
True. And I think it's just, we can only take a movie as we are, right? We come in with all of our preconceived notions and our likes and dislikes and what we're looking at, what we're trying to get out of a film. And the end result is I enjoyed Ants more. I also think looking back on it, it might have been the awakening of my class consciousness too. like that hit me at a very, very impressionable time in my life, and I'm like, the workers maybe do have the control the means of production here. What are we doing? But yeah, both actually pretty good movies. I enjoyed this week. I didn't really know what to
I will
expect
say
from the first
They
also,
were
trailer.
both lighthearted movies, which is nice.
I will say this about A Bug's Life too. There's no getting around it. My favorite gag in either movie is when um their little circus ringleader toward the beginning of the film is trying to keep the audience in, and they do the whole like blaming death thing, and
Oh
like
yeah.
they have to, as this comedy verse, when he gets stuck on the paper and he gets himself pulled off and he's walking away so confidently. He's like, and then the flaming paper falls on top of him. That's my favorite gag. I remember finding that so funny when I was a kid, and it's been a while since I watched it. Even as an adult, I still just laugh my ass off at that part. It's just such a funny
And
visual gag.
and David Hyde Pierce as the stick bug is the best character in both out of both movies.
He's
He's
great.
awesome. He did a great job with that one.
It was good. It was definitely good. There were lots of
But
lots
man,
of
the
bits,
star
lots of
power
fun lines.
is specifically in Ants. I mean,
Yeah,
what
holy
like
shit.
like forget about well, we shouldn't
What
forget
do we got?
about but
Woody
like
Allen, Gene
Woody
Hackman,
Allen
Sharon
is,
Stone, yeah,
he's
Jennifer
he's a
Lopez. I
big
didn't
name,
even
yeah. But yeah, Sharon Stone, Christopher
Walken,
Walken,
Dan Aykroyd,
Danny Glover. I mean, shit.
Frank Glover.
I
And
think
you know,
that
then
I think that is honestly probably a result of there were so many people that turned down Toy Story, and then Toy Story came out, and it was this massive, computer animation. It was this massive success, and then these are the next two movies that come out, right? Ants and A Bug's Life are the next two. A Bug's Life is Pixar's second film, and I think it has a lot of star power too. And I think that that's probably why. I think everybody was just like, oh yeah, we got to say yes to this. Like this
yeah.
is kind of the future. These digital animation movies that kind of also appeal to adults. Like this is a big deal, and so I think they just kind of got everyone they wanted.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sylvester Stallone,
Well,
we forgot about him and Ants too, but Julie Louis
Yeah.
Dreyfus in A Bug's Life, Dave Foley, Dennis Leary, David Hyde Pierce, John Ratzenberger, of course, in every Pixar movie.
well, despite these being, capital or communist fairy tales, we can ultimately look at the box office to tell us which one truly resonated with people. And A Bug's Life made 363 million, while Ants made 171. So
Yeah, I was gonna say A Bug's Life had to have been more popular.
Yeah,
at
just
the time.
torched it. Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But I
I
mean,
don't know what that says
Ants,
about it.
in fairness, like Ants was, I mean, that was the first like really big DreamWorks movie that was like, okay, now they can actually compete. Even though, like, I stand by what I said about the animation, it still at least showed that there's enough talent there that they can start to compete with Pixar and Disney. So Ants was, Ants walked so that Shrek could run. That's kind of how it went.
Ants walked on all 6 of their limbs.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
so that Shrek could run.
So the donkey could run on his forelegs. Yeah.
Do donkeys have 4 legs? We know that. Is that a fact?
We don't have any donkey experts on this podcast either.
I've been called an ass. I don't know.
What about ogres? Do they have 2 ears on their heads? Is that realistic?
Yeah.
Uh,
And again, when
Oh.
I go into a children's animated film, most important thing to me is the realistic depiction of
Of the
every
ant colony.
walking animal and insect that there is.
I did not make this up about the ant colony thing. I have literally seen History Channel shows on this stuff. I also read a book which I'll recommend to all of you called Children of Time, which is actually there's a lot about
is this
spiders.
with the spider? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but they fight against ants in them. I mean, this is it's complicated to get there, but they talk a lot about ants as well in that book. So,
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else to say about these movies?
no, Brandon, have you?
I didn't make
Spoken up
I didn't really have the same producer's notes I've had on others because it's hard to criticize children's movies in the same way I would criticize the other ones. I will say you have Antz coming from a studio who already knows how to make good movies directed at a more mature audience, just maybe not in animation form. and you have a studio in Pixar that's geared at children who had massive success with Toy Story and wanted to try to hit the same formula. In my opinion, in succeeding at the core audience, I feel like A Bug's Life was heads and shoulders above Antz. But in terms of storytelling that is more cohesive, I get where Antz is. You would consider Antz maybe the better movie. But in terms of, for what they're trying to do, I feel like A Bug's Life was more entertaining. That's just my personal outside looking in opinion.
Well, it's a good thing you don't have the gavel this week.
Well, to you, I do want to ask, is this having gone through this whole thing now and you both actually wanting to argue for the opposite movies, do you both stand by your arguments over these movies being the ones, or like Nate, do you still think A Bug's Life is actually better, and vice versa for Jeff?
If I'm just speaking personally now, I probably still like A Bug's Life more than Ants. I think I honestly like them about both equal. To be honest, they are very different. I think they appeal to different audiences. Bug's Life has more of the kind of those visual gags, whereas Ants is more of it's the dialogue. It's in sort of the quick-witted nature of the characters and how they're talking. I in a weird way they're very, the whole premise of this being that like, oh, there's similar movies. I think these are kind of very different movies in some respect. I mean, they're really geared toward different audiences, and I think they're kind of trying to do different things, even though they tell somewhat comparable stories.
Yeah, I do remember liking Ants better, and I do think I've legitimately switched on that. I think the draw for Ants at the time for me was that I could recognize at that. I mean, it's 98, so I was like 13 when that came out, and I would have seen it in theaters. And I still, even though I was getting older and I was a teenager now, I still liked animated movies. But I think I liked the fact that it sort of played to a little bit more of a mature audience, even though it was an animated movie that was presumably directed at kids. And I liked some of the more adult themes at the time, but now where I'm at, I think being exposed to so much more of that and having, just having seen maybe more movies that have that, I think that doesn't hit with me in the same way. And the legitimate, cheerfulness of A Bug's Life was a little bit more refreshing. So, I was being genuine in how that sort of flipped for me.
Another question since both of you that were watching the movies have children. Did your children watch these movies with you, and what were their opinions if they did?
Mine did not. I tried, but we didn't.
Yeah, Ellie, my daughter, does not. We watch all the Pixar movies. She's never really liked A Bug's Life, and I honestly didn't even try Ants with her just because I knew that it would be a little more adult themed. She's one night, she'd actually gone to bed. My daughter had gone to bed, and she got up, and my wife and I were watching Ants, and she came out and she was so annoyed. She was like, "I hate all these bug movies." I'm like, "Well, that's what we're watching this week." Like, I'm sorry, they're actually geared toward you, but I'll sit here as an adult and continue to watch them.
Well, and Millie, go ahead.
She's
Sorry,
never liked it. She's never liked A Bug's Life for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, Millie's 8 now, and she'll be 9 next month, and we have shown her some PG-13 movies, okay, and like Gremlins 2, things like that, and which is like Gremlins like her favorite movie now. But so now she's on this big like live action kick because I think it makes her feel older to see like live action movies that are PG-13. So anytime I'm like, oh, let's watch a movie, she's like, what's it rated? She wants to watch it. So when I was like, hey, we can all watch this as a family, A Bug's Life, she was like,
for general audiences.
I want to watch. I like live action movies. So
one more thing I did want to
segue into.
Oh, sorry. The other thing I did want to bring up was like you guys were talking about how A Bug's Life visually looks better. It was funny. I was watching A Bug's Life with my wife, and I was like, it's just the starking difference of, you watch A Bug's Life, and yeah, it does look better in my opinion than Antz, but how plain it looks when you compare it to Inside Out 2. And you look at how far the studio has come, technology has come, and all the bright colors that were like Inside Out 2. And even like I was ragging on The Good Dinosaur earlier, but The Good Dinosaur technologically, whatever you want, however you say that, was stunning to look at. Like it just visually, I felt like they set up Good Dinosaur to only be done to show off how good they were with their shots and their animation and how good they've gotten. And so having seen the newer Pixar movies and even the newer DreamWorks movies, seeing those, and you turn and I was watching A Bug's Life and I'm like, it's so plain and it's so really obvious when the blueberries drop their little, thing like Nate was talking about, like, here's the massacre that's going to happen. And all that was like really hand-drawn artwork on top of this plain, like the way the animation was. They like literally just took somebody, obviously there drew this and they overlaid it on top of this animation that just was like, man, it doesn't look that great in terms of what they've done nowadays. But at the time it was like Toy Story and this were like, this are amazing. So
yeah. Well, even Toy Story 4 compared to the original Toy Story, like the same characters and they look almost completely different. So, but yeah, should we give the next week preview? You're muted, Steve. You're muted.
All right, I'm unmuted now. Well, let's wrap this one up and we'll talk about next week. We have Immaculate versus The First Omen. We're gonna do some horror.
We're out of the 90s. We're into 20. These movies came out in 2024.
Yeah,
these are recent movies, so not even a year old at this point. It might be close.
I've not even seen either of these. In fact, I'm sitting here right now. I can't really tell you what either of them are about. So this should be an interesting week.
Pregnant nuns.
Pregnant.
I was gonna say they both fall under. There's
Isn't that
actually
an
a term
oxymoron?
I've recently. It's literally a thing called nunsploitation. It's a type of horror that is centered around nuns.
Yep.
Every kid that's gone to Catholic school hates those movies.
Like there's literally like the Nun movie, right? I mean, that's it. There you go.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because my wife, Jackie, she watched Immaculate just on her own the other day, and she said it was one of her favorite movies that she saw last year. So I'm definitely pretty excited about it.
I have not seen Immaculate, but I've seen the other one.
First Omen. I haven't actually seen The Omen. So
the original or the remake?
Any.
No.
So The First Omen will be my first Omen.
Well, the marketing, it doesn't lie.
There you go.
All right, how do we do this? You roll or spin a dice?
Now that we've all been judges, now we restart the wheel.
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah,
the wheel
so
of decision making power. Or do we just go back in the same order now?
Probably the same order.
Go back in the same order.
Who's doing what?
So exactly. So I'm the judge next week because I've now done it.
And just to recap the score here, Nate, you are 2-0.
Got 2. Yep.
I'm 0-2.
Jeff should be 2-0.
I won 1.
Steve's 1-0.
What did I? Oh, Deep Impact. Yeah.
So that's where we're at. So yeah. So Nate's the judge. So then it'll be Nate, you pick the movie, and then Brandon spins the wheel. Or no, you pick the person, and then Brandon spins the wheel for the movie, right?
That's correct. Brandon, are you ready with the wheel?
Working on it. I do have the same question I normally ask. I guess Steve has to pick the person first.
Or Nate.
I'm going to pick
Nate,
the person.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I guess
I will because I thought he was a very good opponent tonight. I thought he made very good arguments. I will pick Jeff as the person. So you may spin the wheel for Jeff.
So then my question to Jeff, which one would you prefer?
I would prefer Immaculate.
All right. And the winner
based on my wife's recommendation
is Immaculate.
Oh, all right.
There you go.
By a hair.
I mean, I came super close to seeing that movie in the theaters, like, because even though Jackie said she watched it and liked it, she doesn't like seeing horror movies in theaters. So, but sometimes I'll go see a movie late at night, like after she and my daughter go to bed. So I almost did that a few times, but it didn't work out. So I'm excited to finally see it.
Should be fun. Horror movies are always people always have strong opinions about horror movies. It seems like for good or ill. So, well,
And I don't know
thank
if I'll
you
get my
all for
wife to
joining
watch
us.
either of these with me because she hates horror movies. So this one I might be soloing.
My wife won't watch either of these. Guarantee it.
I have brute forced my wife into that sounds bad. Into being tolerable of horror movies. She watches way more now than she ever did when we first started dating.
I think I'll make the 17-year-old watch it with me. The teenager, make him sit with me.
I
Come
do
watch
not
this
know.
Pregnant Nun with me.
I do not know if there's any nudity in either movie. I'm not sure on that. If that's something that you care about, but it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us of season 3, Duel of the Greats, DUAL of the Greats. Next week, Immaculate and the First Omen, and yeah, thanks for joining us.